Let's look at an inequality that has a higher exponent, like a 2 for the exponent or more. For instance, the one that is here, y greater than or equal to x squared minus 1. Just like we did with the linear inequalities, let's first pretend that that says equals. If it said y, or maybe f of x even, equals x squared minus 1, the shape that we would have would be a parabola. The minus 1 back at the back, remember that shifts x squared down by 1 place. So the picture that we're looking at, if this is how x squared looks, if we put minus 1 back at the back, that would shift the picture down by 1 place. And here is the parabola if it was an equation. It wasn't an equation, though. It was a greater than or equal to. So now again, the first thing we have to think about, should the parabola itself be included? Since I've got the equals there, that means we'll have a solid parabola when we draw our picture in just a second. Now, again, I want to try to use a test point to decide where to shade. If the parabola has missed 0, 0, that will be the easiest place for us to test. It missed 0, 0, so let's test with that point. If we get something that's true, we'll shade inside the parabola. If we get something that's false, I'll shade outside the parabola. So let's substitute and see what happens. Putting 0 in for y, putting 0 in for x, we have 0 greater than or equal to 0 squared minus 1. 0 squared is just 0, and 0 minus 1 would be negative 1. So I end up with 0 greater than or equal to negative 1, which of course is true. That means I should shade where 0, 0 is. 0, 0 is on the inside, so it's inside the parabola that we'll be shading. Since we had an equal to, the parabola will be solid, and we're about to shade on the inside. Let's see that that's true by changing it from an equation to the inequality that we were actually working, y greater than or equal to x squared minus 1. And you can see that we've now shaded inside the parabola. But now let's try one that's maybe a little bit more difficult for us. The second inequality that we have is x squared plus y squared greater than 9. Now, again, pretend that it just says equals. If it said equals, it would be a circle that we would be looking at since both the x and the y are being squared. The center of the circle would be at 0, 0, since there's not a constant value with either the x or with the y. And remember, the radius of this circle is the square root of the number that's at the back. Square root of 9 is 3. So now if we go to draw this circle, x squared plus y squared equals 9. Here is our circle. You can tell the center of it is at 0, 0, and coming away from that center 3 places in any direction, that's where the circle is going to be located. So a radius there of 3. Now again, this was with an equation. Our problem has an inequality. So I need to know where to shade. Should it be inside the circle, or should it be on the outside of the circle all the way around? Well, we like to use 0, 0 to test with. If the circle missed 0, 0, which it did, doesn't matter about the center. If it misses 0, 0, then we can test with it. 0, 0 represents everybody inside. So if it's true, I'll shade inside. If it's false, I'll shade outside. Let's go back to our problem. Notice that it is a strictly greater than. So instead of having a solid circle, I'll need to change it to a dotted circle. And now when we put 0 in for x, 0 in for y, and do the arithmetic, I end up with 0 greater than 9. 0 is not greater than 9. That's false. Since this is false, I'm going to shade away from where 0, 0 is. Since 0, 0 was on the inside, that means the part that gets shaded will be on the outside. As we change from our equation into an inequality, remember, since it's strictly greater than, the circle will be dotted, and since 0, 0 was false, we'll shade outside the circle. There goes our picture. Test with 0, 0 as long as the picture misses 0, 0. If it's true, shade where 0, 0 is. If it's false, shade away from it. When you've got an equals, put a solid figure. If it says strictly less than or strictly greater than, then put a dotted picture.